casual sometimes call it being a double agent, right? If you do something during your 9 to 5 and you replicate that model maybe after 5 p.m., like you said, it raises two concerns. The non-compete, which you said, you have reached that. The second part is the conflict of interest.
In the real sense, if you are working a 9 to 5 somewhere and then running a side business, would you, as a person running a side business while working in 9 to 5, would you take that same, personally, will you take that if you have an employee?
Even bankers, your bank may be able to check your balances.
Yeah,
audit functions are able to do that. So if they see an income, maybe unusual income in your account, and they say, what was this? You can't say it's my side hustle. If you say it's your side hustle, they just refer to the manual and say you have breached it.
Welcome to Clause and Effect Show, the smart conversational law podcast where fine print is turned into clear conversations. I am Jumi, and with me is my co-host
JT.
So we are back again.
Yeah.
All right. So this show is where we break down the legal clauses that quietly control your life and explain the real world effects. Today's episode is for anyone who has ever said, it's just a small side hustle. My boss doesn't need to know. I am only doing it on weekends, or my personal favorites. Everyone does it, so it's legal. So the question today is, can you legally run your own side hustle while you are working a 9 to 5 job?
Yeah, it's a good question, and based on the country we are in, we all know that the regular individual works a 9 to 5 and has one or two side hustles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good topic to talk about. The question is, there is a fine print between what you're doing, how many people are doing it, and what the consequences are if it's illegal.
Okay, so because the truth is that in today's in today's economy in Nigeria, side hustles are not just a luxury anymore. It's a kind of a mode for survival, as in the case whereby people are still running like a full-time 9 to 5 job and trying to balance up with other activities just in order to make ends meet. But can two ends really meet?
I mean, if I could use a personal example, when I started working in 2018, the first question we should ask is, do we even do 9 to 5 in Nigeria, or 9 to 9 or whatever? That's the first part. The second part is, when I was doing that in 2018, I always needed to come back home, then start my side hustle, which was freelance writing at the time. So just like you said, it's a survival strategy, and it will continue to go on in the meantime.
Okay, so basically side hustles are everywhere. We see a banker during the day that is in the banking, or that sells hair on Instagram at night, and we see a lawyer running a skincare brand. In fact, I feel lawyers, a lot of lawyers.
You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't.
Well,
be doing
yes,
that,
as a lawyer, as a legal professional, you shouldn't have a side hustle, but I don't think that is the case right now. A lot of lawyers have different. I have quite a number of friends that they run different things aside practicing law. I mean, but again, the question remains that your employer is paying for your time, they're paying for your skills, and they're also paying for sometimes your ideas. So is it okay to, while you are, like we said, while you are running 9 to 5, a full-time job, and then you have a side job, not a job, or side business in quotes. Is it something legal? Is it something you think it's okay without the permission or the how do I put it now, without your employer knowing about it?
Yes, so it's a good question, and the answer is dependent on a lot of factors, as we always say. And the first part is, when you're doing this side hustle, where are you doing it? What time are you doing it? With what equipment or resources, as you say, are you doing it? So it depends on a wide range of factors. If you are a banker, like you said, in terms of example, and you, during working hours, are doing something else, you're already breaching your contract, right? That's like the simple part of the conversation.
The generic part.
The generic part, because you've contracted your 9 to 5 to them. If you're doing something else during that time, you have breached the contract. The complex aspects of it gets to, when we are talking about even after the 5 p.m.,
Yeah.
if you are doing some other things, it may either run against the contract that you have, or you may be good to go in the green light. So I think it may also be good for us to look at specific examples of when
Yeah.
it's legal.
So the issue, I think most of the time, the issue is not the facts. It's not just about you running a side business or having a side also, as it's way.
Yeah.
But the issue is whatever business you're running, is it the same similar business as what's your organization? I mean, the where you work 9 to 5. Is it something similar to what they are doing? Is it something similar to, because that would when it comes to non-compete clauses, you can't
Exactly.
run the same business that your employer. I mean, that's outright breach of contract.
Yeah.
You understand? So now I don't think a lot of people think that way. They just feel like, okay, this one is personal for me. It doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah,
right?
so to pick up off your point, I think bankers have a term for something like this. I can't remember the phrase now. Maybe someone can comment on how they phrase that in the banking sector.
Okay.
But we casuals sometimes call it being a double agent, right? If you do something during your 9 to 5 and you replicate that model maybe after 5 p.m., like you said, it raises two concerns. The non-compete, which you said, you have breached that. The second part is the conflict of interest, which is also another factor where, your employer can come against you. So non-compete, I want to believe we talked about something like that
we talked about it
a
last
previous
season.
episode.
Yes.
Yeah. But we didn't discuss conflict of interest. But it's very obvious. If your employer says, oh, this is our major business, we want to lend money out, right? And you as a credit officer say, I've looked at the interest rate of my bank. It won't favor this prospect I'm talking to. Let me take it outside of working environment to lend maybe at 6 p.m. to contract.
Yeah.
It's an obvious conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Okay, so like that specific example you've given, it's the employee is in the wrong in that regard.
Yeah. So, but another excuse that other people also give, employees give is, oh, but I do it after work hours. So, but the question is it when you do it outside work hours, is it your personal time? Because some organizations, even after closing 9 to 5, like physically in the organization, there's still other background work at the end. Till like 8 p.m., 9 p.m., or even 10 p.m. sometimes. Is it still the same time when you are busy answering your customer's DM, and then your boss is trying to say, okay, can you draft letter for me, or can you reach out to your line manager to sort out an issue within the organization?
I mean, so in most contracts, they will say 9 to 5, but there is almost always that caveat in most contracts that says, or for as long as you are required.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another consideration that employees need to pay attention to in their contract. In many cases, even in banks, we work beyond 5 p.m. Most other employees work beyond 5 p.m.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
It's not necessarily a hard and fast rule about your working hours.
Mm-hmm.
The two questions, or the first question you should ask yourself is, what am I doing? Does it go against that non-compete and the conflict of interest?
Yeah.
If you are comfortable with that answer, that it doesn't go against it, then to some extent, I think you're in the clear, if after your work hours.
So, okay, I think another other issues that I see is the fact that like you said, having a full-time job requires your full attention, because like you said, the employer is paying for your time.
Yep.
They're paying for your skills. I mean, the skills you've acquired over the number of years you studied in school. And also, I think to an extent, they are also paying for your loyalty in a kind of way, because if they're paying for your time, your focus, and then your focus is divided. Maybe throughout the night you responded to customers' DM, and then you come in the morning, you resume to work the next morning, and then instead of working, you are dozing or sleeping, or they're distracted. You are not in the best mental shape to even do the work that you are required, that you are paid to do. Don't you think that's
Yeah, you make a good point because that, like you said, that now starts to eat into your performance,
Exactly.
right? And the quality which your employer expects of you. So, um, I mean, may be sounding theoretical, but it's the real lived experiences of people that, you could be doing your side hustle for maybe till 3 a.m. in the morning, and then you show up to work, you're dozing off at your desk. So
Yeah.
you're correct in terms of it eating into your loyalty and performance quality.
Yeah, because I feel like that also will eat into it's going to make you, sometimes it makes employees miss deadlines. You miss deadlines, so maybe you're supposed to submit a review, a whatever it is, to
Yeah,
your bosses, and then you miss deadline because maybe you slept off or you could not do the work you're supposed to do in the
yeah,
sense. And
yeah.
again, in the real sense, if you are, like you said, working a 9 to 5 somewhere and then running a side business, would you, as a person running a side business while working in 9 to 5, would you take that same similar? Will you personally? Will
It's
you take that if you have an
it's a
employee?
vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle because, just like you said, you're you then have to ask yourself the moral question that, am I robbing my employer of their dues? Because if same was done to me,
Would you take it?
what would be my reaction? So, it's a moral question at the end of the day. But, the general context of our reality in Nigeria also is that, like you said, it's not a luxury.
Yeah,
In most cases, it's a
survival
survival
tool.
strategy.
Yeah,
Most employees today will tell you, how much am I getting from the employer? Why shouldn't
well,
I have a side hustle?
yeah.
Because in the hierarchy of needs, you need to survive first, at least, before you start thinking of other things.
All right, let's talk about sectors where these side hustles are highly prohibited. For example, for people that work in the government, in banking, oil and gas, and especially for civil service, it's the rules prohibit side business outrightly. But amazingly, growing up
Yeah.
for the civil service, at least I know my mom working in the government.
I mean, my
For
mom
civil
was
serv
a civil
yes,
servant.
exactly. So for civil servants, a lot of them, in fact, recently I see was it last week or so, I had an opportunity to go what's it called? I took my baby to for immunization recently, and then a lot of the civil servants were running side businesses within the premises, but
Yeah.
yet under the law it's prohibited.
Yeah, so that's where things get into the fine print of the rules. And the question also is, how enforced are these rules, especially for the civil service? I don't think they do much of
Because
enforcement
everybody is doing it.
because
That's
everybody is doing it.
everybody
But
is
I mean,
involved.
it's also a case of being aware
Yeah.
of what the rules are, because we all know ignorance is not an excuse
Yes.
when push comes to shove. Now, for other serious, pardon me, I take that back, not serious sectors, but for highly
Street.
regulated
Yeah.
sectors like banking,
Oil and
we know
gas.
that, yeah, oil and gas, we know that I mean, let's be fair, oil and gas people, why are you doing a side hustle?
Really, you guys have the
You
money.
get
You guys are the
you get well paid, allegedly.
exactly.
So, but it may not be the same for banking sector, but
Yeah.
in all honesty, when it comes to some of these sectors, it's the advice. It's not legal advice anyways, but the general advice is that you should be, number one, be aware of those rules
Yeah.
as applicable in your employer's policy, and number two, stick to them. There are exceptions where you will be allowed to, right? So those
Exceptions.
exceptions, I mean, for instance, I don't know what your employer's policy is, but
No,
for
that's true.
instance, on a Saturday, if you read your employer's manual and you find that, oh, I'm allowed to maybe do passion projects,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like a photography, things like that. And nobody should hold
Yeah.
you for that, right? It then becomes a different question where um, maybe it's something you do on a day-to-day basis that, if they do some findings. Even bankers, the checks, your bank may be able to check your balances.
Yeah,
Audit
definitely.
audit functions are able to do that. So if they see an income, maybe unusual income in your account, and they say, what was
What's it
this? You
for?
can't say it's my side also. If you say it's your side also, they
Then you
may
lost
just refer to the manual and say you have breached
a
it.
contract.
So, you have to be aware and implement carefully, is how I would phrase it.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. At least that's for people in the government area, regulated sectors. And for civil service, I think also far from what I've observed over the years, most of them, it's not like they do it like outrightly and push it on people's faces. They kind of like sneaky, shady kind of thing. Oh, I'm selling this thing. If you are,
Yeah,
you're
they
right.
sell food stuff,
Yeah,
things
exactly.
like
So
that.
yeah. So now let's talk about intellectual property under this issue of side also. Some employers contract employment contracts would say any intellectual property created during the course of an employment, I mean during the duration of such employees employment in the organization belongs to the employer.
Yeah,
So
it's a, a careful conversation to be had, if I can put it that way. There's one, and I think it's probably most relevant for certain sectors, because that is where I've seen clear examples of problems.
okay.
I would say the tech sector is one,
Yes.
right? So let's say a software engineer, right? Someone who creates an app and whatnot. You have an employer, 9 to 5. And then on the side, you have this brilliant idea of an app you want to create. During the 9 to 5, you work for your company, and then you use that same laptop to create to
Software.
implement that software idea you have. You are walking into a big trap,
Yeah.
right? Because number one, while you may have done it outside of work hours, I'm assuming that you use the company's laptop.
Yeah.
In that kind of case, in many cases, it belongs to your employer, because just like you said, most employment contracts, they even go beyond saying created during employment hours, but they will say with company device, right? So it starts to get tricky for people in that sector. So if you, number one, we have done something on IP which spoke
Yeah. We
to
also
employment. Yeah.
last season.
So yeah, that one already answers that question. If you do it during your employment hours, it belongs to your what was it called? Employer. Then if you now do it with the company device too,
Wow, that's
that's
really
another problem.
that's
So the
the
question may then be, okay, how do I escape that loophole? If you have your own personal laptop, number one, do it outside of work hours.
yeah.
Number two, use your personal device and not the company's device. It's a fine line, because even if you are translating some ideas, let no IP theft be involved.
Yeah.
Is where I'm getting at. So it's an important thing to research, and I know that it's a few cases in the US have been centered around employee creating something and it belonging to the employer and whatnot.
Yeah, so because that is actually the truth, because like I said, when you bring it home to yourself, imagine you having an employee, you got the gadgets, you got this, and then the employee is using your devices, your resources to, I mean, fuel their own passion.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actual
yeah, yeah,
betrayal
yeah.
and
I mean,
disloyalty.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I think in some cases, this issue of side hustle or side businesses in quotes can be legal, especially if your employer your employment contract does not outrightly state anything against it. I mean, if the contract is silent about it, well, if nothing is said,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah,
an
it's by
agreement.
contract, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then another issue is when you don't also solicit your employer's clients. It's a different thing working for an organization than you running your own thing, then you going after the organization's clients. That's steps.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Then another thing also that I would say that your performance at work does not
It's not impaired.
yeah. it remains solid,
Yeah.
as solid can be, in the sense that you are not your focus is not shifted from one area to the other, because you can't be taking payment from the organization and not delivering
Yeah. Yeah.
at a
That's
good
very
pace.
correct. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So now let's talk about what we should do before for people that are already in a 9 to 5 organization. They're working 9 to 5 full time, and then they also have a side business that they're running, because most of them will not even remember that they signed that there was anything like that
Anytime.
on the contract that they signed
Yeah.
before being
Yeah.
employed.
True.
What are the options that you think is open to them? What do you think about them?
The first thing I would say to such a person is go back and read your employment contract. I mean, it's just a case of, on a free search, they go back to read it
Okay.
and see what it says. If you want to do it, we've spoken to some of the practical ways or practical things you should pay attention to. Number one, work outside your employment hours,
Yeah.
right? Number two, the safer edge for people like this is make sure you are not playing in your employer's industry.
Yeah.
That's what most general complications face.
Okay.
Once you're doing that, you have satisfied at least the conflict of interest
Yeah.
check mark, right? You've cleared that point. Number three is to make sure you're not using your company's devices, IP, confidential information, anything they will interpret as confidential information. Business leads could also be confidential information. So
But
you have to be careful.
one quick question before we wrap up. Do you think it's actually possible to, as an employee in a organization, and you're running your side business, can you actually separate your work from the work you're paid to do?
It's very possible. I believe it's very possible. That's why I said, for instance, passion projects, like you.
No, no. Let's bring it down to this. Okay, for
Yeah.
example, the organization wants to create an app.
Okay.
Let's say an app for a food business or something, and then you also have the mind to create an app, not necessarily for food business, maybe for something else. But then, in the process of creating the app for the food business,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that there are going to be similarities when it comes to creating apps generally, and then while creating the app for the food business, an idea drops, and then you think, or the employee thinks, oh, this idea will also be good for the
To
app,
translate.
and then translate it into our own side business. Where do you think the line can be drawn?
Yeah,
Because
it's a good question. I would say number one is the what's it called? The learnings that you took from setting up that food app, whatever.
Yeah.
Is it public information? Like, is it something you can prove it is public information and not like proprietary data?
True.
Do you get?
Yeah.
If it is public information, generally you are in the clear.
Yeah.
So long as you also, abide by those first principles of you are not using company's device and whatnot. Because, the company cannot say we are the only ones who know how to create a food app. It's general information.
Yeah.
In writing code, I'm
That's
not a
true.
tech bro, but
Of
in
course, there will
writing
be
bro, we
general.
know that
There
there
are
are general
information.
principles.
Yeah, that's
So in
true.
that regard, once you're not using that proprietary data,
Yeah.
I think generally you're in the clear. Not legal advice, obviously.
Yeah, please, this is not illegal advice. So, all right. So, while we wrap up this episode, as we know, side hustles are not illegal, but it's always better that the law does not punish your ambition. It punishes carelessness. So don't be careless when you are working 9 to 5 and also running your own side business. The two, I mean, you can run both together as long as they don't collide. As long as there's no collusion. All right.
Yeah.
So before you turn your side hustle into, before your side also turns into a legal headache, before your employer takes it up and then a legal war begins, be sure that you are not breaking any contracts, you're not breaking any agreements as regards to your employment contract, right? Thank you for watching and listening to Clause and Effect Show, the Smart Conversational Law Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and share this video with somebody building quietly on the side. And if you want us to break down real contracts, real clauses, and real workplace issues, send it our way via our mail address, clauseeffect.co@gmail.com. You see it below on the screen. It might just feature in a future episode. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.